Rally is an event like no other in the championship. Run over open roads across the African plains, it poses challenges for drivers and teams not even Johnny Weissmuller could imagine. Over the past few years, Lancia have more or less made it their own, and they arrive here now leading both championships with a car wearing a cloak of apparent invincibility. At the start of the six-day marathon, Ewer Kankkunen was flagged away by the president with every reason to feel confident. He was the winner of this event last year on his way to a record-breaking third world crown. But this is the Safari and is, well, different. You don't have to push hard the whole time, said Kankkunen before the start, but then you can't write the animals into your pace notes either. He lost some time on day one when the tread came off the right rear tyre at 100 miles an hour, and he lost another minute at a time control when the marshal took his card and fell under the car with it. Michael Eriksson had been testing the Celica in Kenya since November, and the Safari version was now totally unlike the European version. Almost at once, his version rolled off the road, going over 4 times before finishing on its roof. The first person on the scene was a naked woman, closely followed by a man wearing only a towel. Lancia fielded Safari veteran Bjorn Boldard, though he was still suffering from a broken arm sustained in testing 5 weeks earlier. His rally started well, but he soon became one of several delters to experience shock absorber failure on hard, dry roads and needed helicopter help. Another specialist driver for Lancia was Jorge Recalde, and he at once streaked into the lead until the dust and punctures slowed him and he lost it late on day one. But early in the morning of day 2, he was back in front again. Like so many others, Marco Lane found the early going very rough. The car has flown like a helicopter for 20 yards, he told journalists afterwards, for some reason sounding surprised. He does this sort of thing all the time in Europe. And he took up station behind what he later called the Lancia convoy. On day 1, Carlos Sainz grabbed the lead from Recalde on the last 3 stages. On day 2, he lost time with a turbo failure, the first of many, and it took a long time to fix. Later on, when he had a puncture racing to catch up, he got dangerously close to maximum lateness, and even the helicopter landed to help with the wheel change. The strobe light flashing on the roof is all part of that backup system, but it was almost not enough. The Celica made the next time control with the tailgate flapping, but though he was still in, Sainz had lost the lead and was back in second place. And a small technical aside, the Celica was running with its wet weather snorkel fitted in dry conditions. Lancia and others suspected that it was an extra air intake to underbonnet cooling. On day 2, Ewer Kankkunen, like all his teammates, suffered a string of shock absorber failures and was stranded in the bush. The helicopter had already fixed Recalde twice, and Boldard had also experienced the same problem. Out of stock of the necessary bits, the chopper had to fly off for more while Kankkunen had to wait, and Lancia set up an emergency service point to deal with the sudden, unexpected problem. And at that service point, disaster struck for Boldard. The car was being refuelled, the wind caught the fuel as it was being poured and blew it forward onto red-hot discs. The car caught fire while the crew was still on board. They got out safely, but one mechanic with his head under the bonnet didn't know the car was on fire and was badly burnt. The Lancia helicopter took him to Nairobi Hospital. Now Sainz was ahead of Recalde by 7 minutes, Kankkunen by 18, and though there were problems within the team as both Sainz and Eriksson had brake problems and Alain lost a lot of time with another turbo failure in the middle of nowhere, all the big disasters seemed to be happening in the Lancia camp. The ever-present helicopter buzzing over the track was badly needed, not for Carlos Sainz, but for Jorge Recalde. He'd lost both rear shock absorbers, and even with the aerial spares delivery, he was delayed, and this time, as the helicopter settled beside him a second time, the lead which he'd grabbed from Sainz was gone, and this is where he lost his 7 minutes. Lancia were definitely in big trouble. And so too was Ian Duncan. He would have been higher on the leaderboard, but his hand-me-down Toyota, which had been here for months on the recce, suffered a string of mechanical failures against which Duncan battled superbly to reach the finish at all, never mind in 6th place. In fourth place now, Kankkunen looked unlikely to repeat last year's win. Like all the Deltas, he was getting a precautionary suspension check at every possible opportunity and said he was lucky that Duncan got delayed at the beginning of this leg. That gave us a 6-minute gap from the car ahead and gave me a chance to see in the dust, he said. It was dry and dust was a problem. After his roll, Michael Ericsson's car was filling with the stuff through a variety of non-standard openings, and though dust could get in, he couldn't get out because the doors wouldn't open. And he was also having suspension troubles, but perhaps that wasn't surprising, even if he and the car had supposedly recovered from what was by now known as the nude roll. On the fourth and toughest day, Sainz lost as much time as he had in the preceding 3 days. But the same sort of thing was happening throughout the top 5 as the Safari's longest day took its toll, but didn't really change anything. As Ricalde had a transmission failure, that slowed him. Kankkunen had his 7th puncture and his 6th shock absorber failure. Then the Delta rolled in a dust cloud. It was like slow motion in the movies, said Kankkunen later. It landed on its wheels undamaged, but then came the shock absorber breakages, punctures and a broken drive shaft. In third place, Kankkunen was no longer a threat. Just 21 cars were left to take the start on the last leg of the Safari at 5 a.m. after light showers had dampened the track, a measure of the severity of the event and a tribute to the organisation of the top teams. Carlos Sainz had to stop in the early morning because there was a dense cloud of dust ahead caused by the wind. Then he carried on, and though the gearbox broke 5 kilometres before the end of the last competitive section, he managed to make the finish without losing any time. Kankkunen rose, as expected, to 2nd place after Ricalde let him past. That was done for championship points alone, and it worked, keeping Kankkunen at the head of the drivers' table. Ricalde had driven an extremely competitive rally for Lancia and was unlucky that 2nd place hadn't become 1st. He was even unluckier to see it become 3rd for no reason beyond team orders to let Kankkunen through. Sainz, Kankkunen, Ricalde, Ericsson and Alain, and Kankkunen maintaining his points position at the top of the table. Despite that, this win was the cause of wild jubilation at Toyota. Sainz has never won in Africa before, but this first win of the season was important to the overall title race. But the Safari is not like Europe, and the car is not like Europe either. This win may not mean much in overall terms because this is not the car with which Sainz must win other rallies, so no surprise to find him happy but not overconfident.
Yeah, but this rally you cannot compare with any other rally, so you cannot take any conclusion about this is Safari. Toyota has won Safari, now we have to see what's happening in the asphalt and in normal gravel roads.
And it's a good boost of confidence to you, isn't it? Because, I mean, you've had a lot of problems the end of last year and this year, so it's good for you.
It is good feeling after winning in Argentina, so it's a long time. We have been close to win sometimes and always mechanical problems, and then we have now I think, or I hope it is a breaking point for us and we can start again winning.